We, as e-commerce and digital marketing folks in the gun industry, we don't get to play on the same playground as everyone else. A lot of tech platforms are not available to us. They don't want to be associated with weapons or any of the politics behind all of that. And that goes not just for the e-commerce platforms, but also some of the tech stack. They just don't want to play along with us. And that is a limiting factor for a lot of brands. And so you have to build and design ways to work around that. And it can be very challenging at times. You know, I see some of these brands, they can just start with a huge ad budget on Meta or Google or something like that, which is off limits for us because it's weapon related. For the most part, it's off limits. And they can just see meteoric growth immediately. It doesn't quite work that way in the gun industry. So established brands definitely have an advantage in this industry, especially back then. But you know, we've had to develop ways to serve our merchants outside of the typical way an agency would serve other brands. Owning your platform and owning your tech stack and owning as much of your audience as possible is key in this industry. You can't put that in the hands of somebody else because you could be turned off overnight. So it definitely changes the strategy. Yeah, not only can you be deplatformed or just have your account shut down or money frozen, or in addition to just people not wanting to let you use their networks, there are legal ramifications as well. So if our merchants are non-compliant, you know, that could be fees, lawsuits, arrests, that kind of thing. So you definitely want to get this right in this industry being regulated. In the political climate we're in today, it seems like growth is definitely what people are wanting, especially when the economy is still kind of tough. If you're able to acquire and retain right now, you're doing really well. And so it seems like more people are coming to the table and willing to engage this industry as well. And some of that is politically motivated, some of it is economically. You know, if they're sitting there looking at a massive segment of the U.S. economy, like the gun industry, you know, if there's just a few hurdles that they need to get over internally to be able to address that market, they're going to do it. And it seems like they've been doing that over the last year or so. Well, a lot of times our merchants are more risk averse than we are. You know, I have a philosophy that if your marketing team is not pushing the boundaries a little bit and getting their hands slapped a little bit every once in a while by the merchants, that you're probably not pushing hard enough. You're not trying hard enough. So usually we're the ones that are having to be reeled back just a little bit. And that's not a bad thing. You know, it's like having a very conservative tax accountant versus a one that's more aggressive, and you kind of put them together and you meet in the middle and come up with a more comprehensive and a better plan, probably. We try to fill that role as well. We want to build as much of a layered approach to compliance and handling the laws and restrictions as we can, but we also want to try to, you know, push the boundaries a little bit of what tech is capable of and what our clients are capable of. By staying out there with the latest news, the latest changes, helping them make good decisions, and just trying to respond as quickly as possible. You have to really do your homework on audience segmentation when you're doing marketing in this industry.
So can you just kind of bring me through a little bit of that? I'm interested to figure out, how do you do customer discovery, or how do you find out where customers are? I know organic marketing can be restrictive, or like paid doesn't really factor in for you guys. So where does that journey start for you? If I'm a new brand and I'm coming into the market, how do I get noticed?
There's a lot of different ways that you can approach it. There are some ways that we are able to advertise. We are partners with Topple, who they are one of many display ad platforms where you can get your message in front of people in tangential audiences, maybe related, or let's just take, for example, like Fox News or a conservative website or something like that. You have a much more likelihood of finding your audience at a place like that and getting that broad brand awareness, and then drawing them to your site and trying to market to them there, get them in your marketing loop, and really start the segmentation process there. Obviously, search engine optimization is huge because people are searching for this kind of thing on Google. So you want to do everything that you can in that regard. But then also AI, we're seeing some interesting things happening there. People are asking AI a lot of questions that they maybe haven't asked Google before. So I won't get too deep into that. That gets kind of nerdy really quickly. But that's an interesting growth area.
Sorry, I didn't mean to jump across. I think it's interesting because it's an area of huge debate, I guess, in the wider B2C world. That Google dropped, I think, below 90% of search share for the first time ever in December. We know that a lot of people are going to TikTok to find things out, and they ask questions differently than they do on Google. So, I mean, what is it? They find better information, wider results, dare I say, feel safer asking an AI engine?
It could be that maybe they're just getting more complete information,
Okay.
making. It seems like AI and search and that kind of thing. People are they're using that to maybe find, but then they're using things like Instagram or TikTok or watching some of these influencers
Yeah.
when they're trying to understand how to do something, how to become better at something or improve a skill. So it's an interesting mix of both. So that would be the other area I would say where you can really begin to make a name for yourself is the use of influencers, affiliate marketing, that kind of thing on social, where we're
Mhm.
banned from paid content, but you can get your name and your product in front of people through those venues.
So I'll come back to AI in a little while because it's impacting all industries. I'd love to hear how or if you guys are using it. But the again the journey on building, what are the stories people are coming to you with now? Like, what are those business challenges that your clients and customers are coming to you with that they're trying to solve? Is it removal of legacy technologies? Is it customer requirements? What are those key things that you're seeing as decision points right now?
It's a great question. It's a little bit all over the place right now because everybody's trying to figure out what the economy is going to do. But it seems like most people are interested in projects right now on our side, from what we're seeing. And
Yeah.
there's a couple of reasons for that. It's you can fix cost related to a project, but a lot of times they're trying to align their entire marketing tech stack to be more efficient, so that when things do change and maybe there's economic or political changes that cause a rise in the market, they're in a great position to capitalize on that for years to come.
Yeah, it's similar, I think, in most industries right now. The budget is not there for a lot of replatforming, and the skill set is not necessarily there. I think we had a generation in the mid 2000s of people who have done replatforms one too many times, and they're not too keen to get into it again. So they're saying, "Well, why don't we tackle project work?"
Yeah, and that's interesting because yeah, the early part of the agency we did replatforms regularly,
Hmm.
and now it seems to be people will pick a platform and ride it for much longer than they used to, and then focus on the other pieces, the other tech stack. And that's part of the great thing about composable commerce is you get to when you have a tech stack of a bunch of different technologies that aren't necessarily all married together into one monolithic platform,
Yeah.
you're able to pick and choose and replace those individual pieces without having to wipe the whole slate clean every couple of years.
Yeah, it's definitely something we're seeing, and the conversations become a lot easier when you're doing that as well, because maybe budgets don't have to go so high up, or they're already pre-approved, and people can use them to deploy pretty impactful pieces of work then as well, which I think is kind of interesting. In
Yeah.
terms of selection of technologies, Jason, you've talked a few times about tech stack. Are you limited in the the volume of technology, and does it limit the work? Are there things you would like to do if the limitations weren't there?
Yeah, we would love to be in more places in our industry, but it's not necessarily limitations of the technology. It's just I'll go ahead and put this out there.
Yeah.
A lot of people get squeamish when they talk about guns, whether it be for the things in politics or the things in the news or that kind of thing. But
Mhm.
let me say this clearly so that everybody hears this. And I have this conversation with every one of our tech partners when we first meet. There
Okay.
is no safer e-commerce than selling guns online, because there is no product out there besides guns that I can come up with, guns and suppressors and any kind of serialized item like that that's regulated, where you have to do an FBI background check to take possession of the product. These guns are not shipping to people's houses. They're not being, mailed to just anywhere. They are shipped to your local gun store, and you have to drive there and do a background check, an FBI background check right then and there on the spot. And if you pass, you
Wow.
can then take possession of the product. That seems to alleviate a lot of concerns with our tech partners when we say it that way.
And is that every single transaction that happens in e-commerce for guns?
No, it's not. It's just the ones that contain a gun or suppressor or something like that
Okay.
that requires that FBI background check.
And what way does that process happen then? Is you go into your gun store, the FBI check happens on site, you get a notification that it can be released? Is it something like
That's
that?
correct. Yes, it's called the NICS, NICS
Okay.
system that the FBI uses, and it does an instant background check. If there happens to be some concern or they need to do a little bit more digging, you can get a delay, and they'll tell you to come back when it's when you've been approved or disapproved.
Okay.
But it checks your your criminal background, your history, that kind of thing. Make sure that you're a safe and sane person to own that product.
Yeah.
And usually it's an instantaneous yes or no right there on the spot.
And in the cases that it's not, is there much dispute from the recipient or the perceived recipient?
You can dispute it. I've never had to or never known anybody that needed to, because that
Yeah.
database is pretty, 20 years ago it was a different story, but
Yeah.
all of these police and crime databases all seem to be pretty well connected now. So, and then everybody's identity is pretty well managed by the government as well.
This seems like a dumb byproduct of a question from my side, but is returns a challenge in the gun industry?
It can be a lot of times. Usually once a firearm has been transferred from the manufacturer to the dealer, and then from the dealer after the background check to the customer, it's considered non-returnable for the most part, unless there's some kind of manufacturing defect or something along those lines. But then for all the parts and accessories, that kind of thing, it would follow a fairly standard percentage of returned orders after that.
So with all of this in mind, like as an agency, have you had to build your own your own tech capability, like whether it's on the marketing side or on the development side? It must be pretty unique position to be in, like being on that growth side and the development side.
Yeah, so there are some pieces that we've had to build ourselves, but mostly we have fantastic partners that are willing to engage and build their product around our industry, or make modifications necessary, or increase or enhance capabilities to address the needs. Thankfully, most of this is not very difficult compared to a lot of other things, deep ERP integrations, that kind of thing. So we mostly lean on our fantastic network of tech partners that we've built over the last 17 years.
Amazing. And like stepping out of some of the detail a little bit, in the wider market, where do you see this going in the political climate that we're in? Like we've talked a little bit about things have accelerated, decisions have happened faster. Does that put more pressure on you to support differently? Like, do you have to put more emphasis on development now or growth? I've asked a similar question along the way, but have you got to hedge bets on where you think this is going to land?
Ooh, great question. Let me think, what's the best way to answer this? Really, when you build a flexible, dynamic e-commerce and marketing system, you are you're hoping and building for the future. And part of that is just being able to switch on a dime, agility.
Mhm.
And most of the platforms that we work with are very agile. We can address changes in the market or the changes in laws relatively quickly. Some are faster than others. Um, a lot of it comes down to how quickly can we alter the tech stack or the e-commerce platform, or the marketing related to it. But then
Mhm.
also there's the back end side of things for our merchants and manufacturers that we deal with. They have people and processes and workflows of their own that they're going to have to change. We usually end up waiting on them more than we're waiting on the tech to catch up.